In the words of the legendary chef and my personal hero, Anthony Bourdain, food is everything we are. It's an extension of a nationalist feeling, ethnic feeling, your personal history, your province, your region, your tribe, your grandma. It's inseparable from those from the get-go. Welcome to Every Dish a Story, a podcast about a place of food in our lives and what it meant to our ancestors. I'm your host, Kat, and I'm going to take you to a new location every 2 weeks to connect to who we are. The Greeks believed that life is better. Every Greek family, including foodies, creates their own particular recipe of moussaka, or moussaka, as the Greeks say it. Anyway, it comes in a variety of forms all throughout the world and is without a doubt considered a Greek dish, but it is also very well, when the Arabs introduced the eggplant to the world, it is usually assumed that they also introduced moussaka. The Levantine According to one food historian, the Baghdad cook a dish made with eggplants, olive oil, garlic. One of the most prominent Greek chefs, Nikolaos Tselamentis, published a Greek recipe book in 1910, including a moussaka with a French bechamel sauce on top. Moussaka today comes in a variety of forms, but it always... In some recipes, the meat is lamb, while in others it is beef, and in others it's a combination of the two. Vegetables such as zucchini. The eggplants are sliced and lightly cooked in olive oil in the Greek version, then piled in a casserole with ground. Before baking, bechamel sauce with grated cheese is poured over the meat and vegetables. Sliced potatoes are occasionally used as the bottom layer in the casserole. When the moussaka is unmolded, it can be baked in a deep dish lined with eggplant skins, which produce a gorgeous shining casing. The Arabic moussaka, however, is a meatless stew made. There are two varieties of eggplant in Greece: elongated purple eggplants with whitish pink stripes and large plump eggplants with dark purple skins. There's another variety, white eggplants, which are grown. On this island, eggplants are grown on arid volcanic soil, which gives them an amazing... Of course, there are several other varieties of eggplant in the world, and the plant... In fact, it's no surprise that the people living around the Mediterranean Sea have an amazing variety of recipes for dishes that use fresh eggplant, and that many of them are... It's also interesting that we see some dishes using eggplant and minced meat in an almost endless combination and variety throughout the Balkan countries. For centuries, in Greece and in other parts of the world, people ate what they had on hand, which included dried grains, pulses, and a variety of exceptional occasions and celebratory feasts. People in livestock-raising villages smoked and preserved meat, as well as eaten it. There was a limited variety, particularly during the winter. Ordinary people in towns and villages cooked with what they had, and only a few of them... Dough, especially in the form of phyllo, was employed as the sealant in composite dishes that could be baked unattended in a wood-fired bread oven without drying out. Pitas or pies with a variety of fillings. What is unusual in Greece is that most of the everyday foods from those days have remained in the kitchens of today's households and taverns. Fasalada, a soup made with dried beans, onions, carrots, celery, parsley, tomato, and olive oil, is the favorite food of at least... Meat appeared on the table a couple of times a week in most middle-class families in the 1950s, usually in the shape of ground beef for meatballs or spaghetti sauce. Sunday dinners included roast chicken or veal pot roast. However, while much has remained consistent over the years, Greek food has evolved in step with. The first major shift occurred in the 19th century, when a newly formed urban middle class of merchants and clerks with access to the European world began to emerge and aspire to a more sophisticated life in the newly formed nation-state of Greece, which had gained in. People began to travel, and hotels in larger towns were forced to cater to Western visitors who considered. Within this new culture, the new idea flourished that the Western, which at the time meant French, was superior. If a food was French, it was automatically better tasting, healthier, and more. This movement was then consolidated at the turn of the century around the figure of Nicolaus Tselamentas, a young middle-class chef who traveled to Vienna for a 3-year apprenticeship before moving to the United States, where he worked in some of the. After returning to Athens, he became involved in the promotion of French cuisine, first through a monthly magazine and subsequently through a cookbook. This cookbook was every middle-class housewife's culinary Bible. At the time, the main difference between French cuisine and Greek home cookery was the use of the sauces served as a contrast between sophisticated flavors and simple plain ones. Ingredients such as butter and cream were introduced, which, when combined with reduced stock, simple grilled meat or fish became more exotic and attractive. Bechamel, in particular, was to significantly modify even common. It was used as a topping for complex foods such as pasticcio and moussaka, as well as basic vegetable dishes like steamed cauliflower. When used in this way, bechamel opened up new baking possibilities. It was a new way to seal dishes to keep the moisture in. These dishes, which have since come to be considered typical of Greek cuisine, were created right. In fact, it was bechamel sauce that helped produce perhaps the most typical of the new urban dishes at the time, one that became poached chicken with rice coated in the sauce, this time with extra stock and cheese to. For some reason, the Greeks started calling this dish, chicken milanese, despite the fact that it actually originated in France. At the same time, by the chaotic early 20th century, Greece had doubled in area and acquired a second significant metropolitan center, Thessaloniki, a bustling metropolis with Greek, Jewish, Turkish, and Bulgarian communities coexisting all. Of course, their cuisines affected one another, with herbs, spices, and other items being passed around and resulting in the creation of entire. That's where all the new dishes were born and then spread out through. Thessaloniki was an outlier in northern Greece, with a distinctly different landscape and climate. Because the plains were more fertile and have 2 huge rivers that irrigate them, the produce has always been more diversified. Meat was also more plentiful and of higher quality in the north, with pork being preferred over lamb, as it was. Northern Greek cuisine became known for one commodity in particular, red peppers, both hot and mild. As in all Balkan countries, these were pickled and dried and used throughout the cold winters. Pickled cabbage with fiery red peppers was and still is a popular seasonal meal in Moussaka. But spicy food was virtually unknown in the rest of Greece, and is still. After terrible military loss in Asia Minor, or Anatolia, known today, in 1922, Greece was inundated with over 1 million refugees from across the Aegean Sea, all of whom carried. The rural communities prepared simple Greek peasant cuisine with slight spice variations. Cumin, for example, was first introduced to Greece. Middle-class city people from Smyrna, a major port city, were also among the refugees, many of whom were very well educated. And they had incorporated aspects from other cultures. Later, bourgeois Greeks from Istanbul joined the group, whose cooking was influenced by the Ottoman haute cuisine, the exquisite cuisine of the Sultan. A dish called hünkar biendi, please pardon, which is a stewed veal in the sauce of a smoked eggplant pureed with butter and milk, was a signature dish of this new imported cuisine. and it has preserved its Turkish name and identity despite the popularity. The mighty metropolis had so much more riches to offer. Its markets, which were strategically located between the Mediterranean and the Black Seas, offered a wide variety of fish and other seafood, including both luxury foods such as caviar and more common low-cost fares like mussels, which were then fried on street corners and sold in newspaper cones or stewed with wine and tomato sauce in it. Today, some talented chefs at top restaurants in cities like Athens, Thessaloniki, and the more fashionable islands have recently created some truly inspired new dishes, typically combining experimental culinary techniques and traditional local recipes. Some young people have returned to the countryside, partly as a result of the economic downturn, and since then have rediscovered heirloom fruit and vegetable types, as well as traditional organic farming. Small family businesses are once again creating terrific cheeses which had previously vanished from. Small farms raise cattle without the use of antibiotics or industrially manufactured animal feed in natural. Foragers are gathering a variety of mushrooms that had previously gone unnoticed in the woodland. A growing number of long-forgotten ingredients are making a comeback on the market, and consumers are starting to healthy, flavorful, and fascinating meals. Just like in many other Mediterranean countries, simplicity is the key word of Greek cooking. A fish isn't drowned in sauce. Instead, it's grilled whole with lemon and olive oil, or poached with veggies and served in its own juices, with fresh sourdough bread for dipping. Meat is grilled over coals or slowly simmered in tomato sauce or wine and eaten with spaghetti, rice, or fried in olive oil potatoes. Salads are prepared with seasonal greens or vegetables and dressed with olive oil and lemon. A beautiful forkful of moussaka is truly a must-try for any foodie, because moussaka we are familiar with today is a modernized European version of an Arabic cuisine that was introduced to Greece via Turkey. Who would have thought that? Think about that the next time you take a mouthful of this delectable dish. On this note, I would like to wrap up our final mini trip of 2021. And here's hoping that 2022 won't at least be worse than 2021, given how it's been the past 2 years. As always, head on over to my YouTube channel, Cheddar Cats, where I will show you how to make an excellent moussaka, which is very simple because I've decided not to fix what isn't broken and not to invent a bicycle all over again. So we're just going to cook a very traditional, very simple, and just absolutely magnificent moussaka. Of course, you will also find full recipes on my website. All the links are in the description. Thanks for being with me. Eat well, train hard, love cats. Also, please recycle your garbage when you can. And wherever you are in the world, I do hope that you are healthy and safe. Please get vaccinated, wear your mask, take care of yourself and those around you. Happy holidays, enjoy yourself, live a little, but be careful. Bye-bye for now, and I'll be back in 2022 on January 6th with a new journey.